Now, things can also get a little more complicated. In an example like this, before we can do the adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing on both sides of the equation that we've been doing up till now, sometimes we've got to make one or both sides of the equation look nicer, or in other words, simplify it. And the way we do that is, first of all, if there are any grouping symbols, we need to get rid of those. And second of all, we need to combine any like terms. Okay? So let's do that. The way we get rid of these grouping symbols is by doing this multiplication with the distributive property. So this is a -4. -4 times x is a -4x. -4 times -7 is a positive 28. Now that we've removed the grouping symbols with the distributive property, we can combine like terms. X and -4x are like terms. X minus 4x gives us -3x. So our equation is equivalent to -3x plus 28 equals -50. Now we're at the point that we can begin applying the same operation to both sides of the equation. Remember, we want to add or subtract first so that we can get the variable term alone. We have those 28 items. We need to get rid of them from both sides. So we have -3x equals a -78. And finally, divide by -3. And so on the left, -3x divided by -3 is x. On the right, -78 divided by -3 is 26. As an exercise, substitute 26 into this equation wherever you see the x, and check and make sure that the left-hand side comes out to the same value as the right-hand side. In this example, we now have fractions. And there's nothing wrong with working with fractions. I could go ahead and solve this just like before. I've got an x term. I'm subtracting something from it. That's equal to a number. I could add 3/4 to both sides of the equation, and then I could divide by 2/3. And that's perfectly acceptable. However, it's often a little bit more work to use fractions. So another option that we have is to multiply on both sides of the equation by the appropriate number that will cancel out all of these denominators. And so I have an equation that only involves whole numbers rather than fractions. And that number is going to be the least common denominator of all the denominators in the equation. Okay? So, the least common denominator of 3, 4, and 6 is 12. So what we do is we multiply on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side by 12. Now, after we simplify this, we're going to find that the fractions have disappeared. See, on this side, we must distribute the 12. Effectively, what we're doing is multiplying every term by 12. So we have 12 times 2/3 times x minus 12 times 3/4 equals 12 times 1/6. Okay, so I've simply distributed the 12 on the left side. Now I'll go ahead and multiply that 12 by each of these fractions. Okay, so 12 times 2/3 is 24/3. Negative 12 times 3/4 is negative 36/4. And 12 times 1/6 is 12/6. Now, our denominators are going to disappear when we divide out. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So we have 8x. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And we have a nice equation now. 8x minus 9 equals 2. And we can solve that just as we did before. We want to add 9 so that we can get our variable term alone. And then we'll divide by that 8 to get our variable alone. So x is equal to 11/8. Or, if you prefer, 1.375.